What's up everybody, and thank you for joining me for another video. My name is Wak4863, but you can call me Wak. I'm back with another episode to the Ultimate Beginner's Guide for Conan Exiles. This is episode 3, and in the last episode I told you that I was going to focus on combat in this episode. And I'm going to get to that, but first I want to talk to you about the journey steps. Each one of the journey steps are going to give you a different reward. So if you complete the survivor journey step, you will get a reward of supply materials. And you can see all of the different steps that you need to take in order to complete this journey. So it's good to focus on these and make sure that you are completing them when you can. You have to have the journey selected and active in order to get credit for each one of these steps. So you'll be coming into this screen quite often to see if you are going to partake in one of those journeys. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because we are actually going to fight some human NPCs that should clear our journey for Survivor in this state. I am using daggers for this particular build. I like the agility builds, but as we approach an enemy and it has aggro on us, there's a few options of what we can do. With the daggers, we actually have a roll, and then we also have a flip attack. The flip attack is done by pressing the block button, and the roll is done by pressing the dodge button. Additionally, we are able to target an enemy, and that is going to keep our character looking at that enemy the entire time. You have heavy attacks and light attacks. The light attacks are your left mouse button, and the heavy attacks are your right mouse button. There are also slight combos that can be achieved by doing different sets of attacks. And as I told you in the previous episode, you can use different hatred methods to kill certain enemies and give yourself an advantage. Now, as long as you get some semblance of how the combat works, most of the things on the Noob River won't give you a whole lot of a hard time when you're fighting them. Additionally, depending on the type of build you've created and how many points you have in your attributes, the stronger you're going to get. When you kill an enemy, you should always look in its inventory to see what kind of stuff they may have been carrying, especially if they are a humanoid NPC. Make sure that you're looting chests that are found around the different areas of the exiled lands. Now, one thing I haven't brought up in previous episodes, but you may have figured out for yourself, is you want to have a torch for when it gets night. And we're close to night now, so I will grab some resources in order to craft a torch. Additionally, and a pro tip for you, if you are looking for branches and you see a branch on the ground like this, don't pick it up if you have a hatchet. Smack it with the hatchet and it's going to give you more branches than you would have got if you picked it up. Now, we can craft this improvised torch with 5 branches and 5 plant fiber, or we can go into our knowledge and select the survival tab and we'll find a better torch. This is going to have a longer lasting time period, and it only costs 1 knowledge point to unlock it. So we'll go ahead and unlock that, and we're going to use that torch instead. Additionally, if you want to have a bed and a bedroll, you can unlock Bed Shaper at this time. So we just need a bit of plant fiber to create our torch. We'll harvest that up here, and then we can go in and select the torch that is wood and plant fiber, not the one that is branches and plant fiber. Now that we have that done, we can do a couple more journey steps here that have popped up since we engaged with that combat. You can see we have to get 5 stones. Now we've reached a point where it wants us to place a bedroll. We already have one placed. Just interacting with that again will complete that journey step. If you want to be able to hold a torch and have a one-handed weapon, my recommendation is the stone club, because it's going to apply sunder, and sunder is going to make the target weaker. You are going to negate up to 50% of the target's armor when you have 5 stacks of sunder on the enemy. So the stone club is a good choice for a one-handed weapon. We can now, while we're at the water, also refill our water skin. All you have to do is look at the water and press the hotkey for the water skin. Additionally, you can drink water just by pressing the interact button while looking at the water. Now, all the different weapons have different attributes to them, so you'll want to check those out. The stone daggers, like I said, are an agility weapon, but as I attack enemies with this particular weapon, it does apply a status effect that is bleed. The stone claws are also an agility weapon, and like the daggers, they apply bleed. The stone club is a strength weapon, and even though it doesn't say so, it does apply the sunder effect. The one-handed sword is also a strength weapon, and it applies a cripple effect, which is going to slow your target. The two-handed sword, also a strength weapon, will also apply the cripple effect. The two-handed stone maul is a strength weapon, and as you can see here, it does say that it sunders. And then the stone pike is a strength weapon, and its attribute is that it has reach. You can attack something that's further away from you with the stone pike. There's also throwing axes that you can craft, and there are some combinations of having a throwing axe and a weapon in your hand. If we take out our stone sword and our stone throwing axe at the same time, we can actually use these weapons kind of in conjunction with each other. We can also throw the stone axe by pressing the block button. Most weapons you will find do not have a block feature. A little bit later on in game, you are able to get a two-handed axe, and that weapon is going to allow you to use it to block. For blocking, you're actually going to need to craft a shield if that's the way that you want to play the game. Personally, I don't care for the blocking in Conan Exiles because it doesn't give you a real window of opportunity to attack back. You can see there's a slight stutter step, but after that they are able to attack right away again. As you're blocking as well, you are going to be losing stamina and durability on that shield. But it is a way that you can play the game should you want to use a shield at any point in time. For me, I find it easier to just sidestep the enemies and attack them from the back and not worry about blocking. And it's not a bad idea to have a couple of your favorite weapons on you at all times, especially early on in game, because the durability is so low. Now, if you're looking to get into some ranged combat, the real only option is to unlock bows. That's going to be found under your weapons, and you have to scroll quite a ways down to find archer. It doesn't cost anything to unlock this, so you may as well unlock it. There is a dungeon that can be done early game that actually requires you to have a bow. And if you pay attention to the inventory of the enemies you're killing, it's likely you'll find plenty of arrows early on that you won't have to craft them. The bow is crafted in your inventory, and you're also able to craft arrows in your inventory as well. Once you have the bow, you can select the type of arrow and pull that down to the bow. Additionally, you can load bows from your hotbar if you put the arrows in your hotbar. So if you have multiple types of arrows, you can put them in your hotbar and load them on the fly. For combat, it's very important that you are stationary when you decide to shoot. If you shoot while you're moving, the arrow is likely to be less accurate. You can see the two lines on the side of my dot have disappeared. If I stop, they come back, and then I'm able to shoot again. Now, there are heavy and light attacks for the bow. So if we draw with the heavy attack, you can see that it charges up, and when we see the flash at the tip of the arrow, that means that it's ready to go with full power. I'll do that again, flash, and shoot. Then we can just shoot very, very fast as he comes up, kind of get that quick hits off. If we aim for a limb on many of the enemies, it will actually cripple and make them slower. But you can see early on, the bow just really isn't that effective. I've already used 20 arrows just to dispatch 2 enemies. Later on in game, you'll find that bows are much more useful, but early on, they feel a bit more like a utility than they do a weapon. I do want to show you the cripple status effect from the bow, so I'm going to run up here to a humanoid enemy. I'm going to aim for the leg. And you can see the cripple there and how slow she's moving. If I can hit her one more time. Oh, I killed her. All right, let's do it with this one. There you go. You can see how much slower she is just by the fact that we've shot her in the leg. She's not able to move. And you can see that effect on me as well as she shot me in the leg. Let's talk about in-combat healing. So, as you know, there are two healing items that I spoke about. One is your wraps, and the other is your potions. You don't want to use wraps while you're in combat. Wraps are meant for out-of-combat healing. I'm going to let this guy hit me one more time here, get my health a little ways down. Now, you want to make sure that when you are healing, you're doing it while you're not going to be attacked. If you are being attacked while you're healing, it's going to stop the animation of your healing and stop the amount of hit points that you're going to get. So if I get bad timing here, you can see I just wasted a potion. So you want to be very wise and careful about when you decide to use that healing item so you don't just waste it and lose out on those hit points and that potion. So since I'm still injured, we'll use one of the wraps, and I'm just going to pull that down to the hotbar to use real quick. I don't keep them in the hotbar because I never use them in a situation where I feel like it's important to get them there. I always use them when I can open my inventory because it takes a long time to heal with the wraps. I should also mention that at any point in time during the healing animation, that can be canceled by rolling. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're going to take damage, but you really need to heal, you can roll out of the way, waste that healing item, and then start the heal again when you can safely do it. So we're going to get in a fight with these guys, and I just want to show you a few of the tactics that I use in game. One is the roll so that you can get out of the way, and then for the most part, I continue to circle around them, looking at them the entire time. I will only use target lock if there's one enemy because it does put yourself into some sticky situations if you're target locking and not watching the other guy and he creeps up behind you. So then it's all about timing and windows of opportunity to not take damage while doing as much possible damage as you can. You also want to manage your stamina and make sure that you have enough to complete a combo or get off a couple of hits before they're able to attack again. Now at this point in time in the series, I'm going to turn off the journey steps and I'm going to turn off the contextual controls. I don't need to play with those items, and I'm not going to follow the journey steps in this series unless I specifically choose a journey to follow for a certain guide. Otherwise, I would expect you to just follow the journey steps as they're laid out. The last key thing about combat is knowing the different types of enemies. So as you're running around and looking at what there is on the map, you will notice that some things aggro against you on sight. Like I know if I run over here, that red shellback is going to aggro against me right away. The green one will not. However, the crocodile that's over there will also aggro against me at first sight. So I know how to enter this area and be prepared for an engagement. I know who's going to attack first so that I can focus on that, or I know how to avoid that particular enemy so I don't get into a fight with it. The other thing to notice is that as you're attacking certain enemies with certain weapons, they will get staggered. So you can see if I run up to this guy and hit him, he gets staggered for just a moment. Anytime I don't see that flinch reaction from his body, I know that he is not staggered and he is going to be able to attack. So anytime you see something stop flinching from your attacks, be prepared for an incoming attack. Another part of combat is going to be knowing the mesh for every single enemy. Now this is a special enemy. The difference between this guy and other crocodiles that you'll see on the Exiled Lands or the Isle of Sipta is he has one skull there. He is going to hit much harder than any of the other crocodiles. Now you can see that I just continue moving around him. I'm actually able to move through his body. But if you are caught in the middle of his body when he does an attack, he is going to hit you. All right, so now that you understand what we're looking at, we can actually engage in this fight. And since I know how to fight this guy, I should be able to take him on at this low level. The bleed is going to make a big difference on getting this guy killed so that I don't have to continue to attack the entire time. And what I'm doing is I'm doing a single light attack and then a single heavy attack and then making sure that I get out of the way of his next strike. Standing in the middle of his back like this makes him want to leap forward, and that gives me the advantage over the Crocagator. Now, anytime you fight one of these one-skulled monsters, these are called corrupted enemies, and different enemies can be corrupted. You'll know they're corrupted because while they look like the other wildlife that's in the Exiled Lands or the Isle of Sipta, they're usually slightly bigger and they normally have glowing eyes. When you come across one of these and you kill it, it's my recommendation to use a pick on its body to get the better resources out of it. And you can see we got some funny stuff out of this enemy. We got advanced armor repair kits, glowing essence, and then we got some demon blood from this particular enemy. And as you get better tools, the resources that you get out of corrupted enemies just gets better. Now let's try that same fight with a different weapon and a normal enemy so that you can see what I do. I run right through him and then I stab and attack from the back. I know his tail's curved, so he's going to attack, so I roll away or towards the tail curve. Continue to attack, watching my stamina and making sure that I can always get out of the way. And you may sometimes have to roll, sometimes you're going to be able to sidestep and get out of the way of damage. That time I was a little bit early, so I just continued to move so that his attack would come at a point where I was not in the way of that attack. Now, crocodiles and Komodo dragons are the only things that you can actually run through their mesh. As you can see, we cannot run through the mesh of a shaleback. There are other enemies that you will face later on where you can actually get stuck inside their mesh, and I'll cover that in a future video. Now that's it for this episode. That should get you out there fighting these enemies with some confidence and some understanding of the different systems and how you can use those systems to stay alive. Don't forget to whack the like button on the way out and let me know in the comment section below if there's any particular mob that you have difficulties fighting. I'd like to thank all my YouTube members for their continued support. Y'all are absolute legends. If you're looking for another great video for Conan Exiles, click the one that's on the screen right now.